Who's responsible for paying for testing under the OSHA ETS? We have that next for you on Employment Law After Hours. One of the many questions we've been getting the last couple weeks is if the Supreme Court upholds the OSHA ETS, as our prior episodes have suggested, who is responsible for paying for the testing for the unvaccinated employees? The answer is actually a little more complicated than you may think. Under the OSHA ETS, employers are not responsible for paying for the weekly testing for the unvaccinated employees. However, certain states, namely California and perhaps Florida, actually require employers to pay for certain costs associated with employees. In California, testing falls under that category. Although we're not California attorneys, based on our recent interpretation of California guidance, the testing that is to occur under the OSHA ETS is supposed to be covered by employers, although new guidance may be issued in the near future. In Florida, on the other hand, a recent statute passed by the governor concerning vaccinated employees may actually require the cost of weekly testing under the OSHA ETS to shift to employers. However, we are waiting for additional guidance from the state to determine whether the OSHA ETS testing does fall under that recently passed statute. So in sum, certain states such as California may require the cost of the weekly testing to be shifted to the employer. So you will definitely want to check your relevant state law to determine whether you will be required to pick up the cost of the testing for your unvaccinated employees. In addition, some employers have a collective bargaining agreement with their employees. Under the terms of that CBA, the costs of doing business, if you will, with your employees may include that OSHA ETS. So although for the vast majority of employers you are going to be able to shift the cost of weekly COVID testing to your unvaccinated employees, the question that follows is, should you? Obviously, that could lead to a departure of many of your employees to go find smaller employers with whom they're not required to weekly test at their cost. In addition, to possibly entice your employees to stay, you may want to consider picking up the cost of that testing or otherwise purchasing testing kits that unvaccinated employees can take at your workplace each week. We're actually going to cover that in a future episode, so don't forget to subscribe so you're notified when we publish the episode that covers workplace testing under the ETS. Finally, another issue that needs to be considered is whether you are required to compensate your employees for time spent testing. Under certain state laws and perhaps the Fair Labor Standards Act, employers may be required to pick up the cost for their employees to conduct testing to return to work. For this reason, many employers are going to actually require that their employees test on site each week under the supervision of a representative of the employer. We're going to have a future episode that discusses that workplace testing and the parameters of it, so stay tuned for that. Regardless, you're going to want to consult with your employment attorney as to what parameters may be imposed upon you under state law concerning the cost of testing and also whether you will be required to compensate your non-exempt employees. There's obviously a lot of moving parts under the OSHA ETS, and it still remains to be seen whether the Supreme Court will uphold it in its entirety, as our prior episodes have discussed. Nevertheless, we really appreciate you staying tuned to this channel for your updates under the OSHA ETS. Although we are attorneys and not your attorneys yet, we do believe that the information we're able to provide in an educational format will go a long way in aiding you in your discussions with your own employment attorneys and as you make considerations for your workforce. We really appreciate you staying tuned to this episode, and we look forward to you checking out our future episodes. I hope you have a great rest of your day.